New cards, PogChamp, new cards, PogChamp. First, let's talk about this fruity insect. They're just printing cards for me now. Asset Mountus? I'm trying to mount his assets. You know what I'm saying, right? Like, Jesus Christ. Okay, we also have this gay couple, Ken the Warrior Dragon and Gen the Diamond Tiger. So let's talk about these two cards real quickly. Obviously, a bunch of better players have already beat this to death. Once per turn at the end of the battle phase, return this card from the field to the hand. You can only use each of the effects once per turn. During your main phase, you can special summon again to your opponent's field. And then if it's special summoned by the effect again, your opponent draws 2 cards and they discard 1 card. Then, once per turn at the end of the battle phase, return this card from your field to the hand. You can only use the effects once per turn. During your main phase, you can special summon a Ken from your hand or deck to your opponent's field in the defense position. If this card is special summoned by the effect of Ken, discard a card. This is not good. These are pretty frightening. Obviously they can be special summoned by a card like Isold, which is good in Infernoble, but I don't think that means they're going to be necessarily good enough in Infernoble to skyrocket it to playability, because Infernoble already has access if they have enough extenders to do exactly this twice. And it's a better discard because it's a targeted discard off of, who's that little freak? Neos Dolphin, right? I think that where these are better is where Jesse was already trying them in like Pearly, a deck that doesn't necessarily need its normal summon, and if you draw too many of them, could be pitched for the quick play spells. That said, I don't think they're the difference makers. Like, this discard a card is your choice, right? I think that like we're pretending this is a really powerful hand loop, but a card like Confiscation, you know, full disclosure, this might be a complete lie, isn't like really that good compared to the power of cards like, you know, like the Forceful Sentry or Triple Tack or Dust Shoot or, you know, shit like that. Discard a card is something that a lot of decks can even use to their advantage. You know, discard a card triggering against your Rescue Ace opponent. They put one of the dead big machines in their graveyard to turn on a Preventer in their hand. You know, discard a card versus Tearlament. I mean, you might as well have just asked them to play the game, you know. But there are a couple of scenarios in which they are busted out the ass. Chad has identified the biggest one of them, which is, of course, Dark World. Dark Worlds are crazy with this. This is a great way to turn the secondary effects online. I don't think they're the difference maker in Dark World. And then the second one that people have been talking about is Triple Tack. They're like, no, this turns on Triple Tack. And it's like, I think Triple Tack is just going to be on anyway. Like, I think that, like, if your opponent's going first, all of your non-engine is probably going to be monster effects. So, you know. That's not to say I think these cards are bad. I think they're very good, but I don't think they're like auto-include format-destroying super threats. Am I reading these wrong? Hold up. No. You're activating the effect to discard a card. You choose what it is. Yeah. It's not a hand loop in the same way that, like, Thrust or Talents is. But they are very strong cards, and I imagine they will see play in some decks. I just think that, like, people are pretending that it's like, oh my god, they unbanned the Forceful Sentry, and I don't think that is the case. You want to play 3 Gen, only 1 Ken because you want the Ken effect? Oh, if you're playing these, you can cycle 2, discard 1 off your normal. That, I think, is a fair thing to do. The fact that it turns on tack is frustrating, but, you know, I don't think it's that ridiculous. Asset Mountus. This card's bad. If your opponent controls a level 6 or lower monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. If you have more cards in your hand than your opponent, you can change the battle position of all monsters on the field. All insect monsters on the field become the same attribute and level as this card. You can't special summon a monster for the rest of this turn, except insect monsters. If this card is destroyed, you can add a level 8 or higher insect monster from your deck to your hand. I think people found out the only good thing you can do with this is make, what's that Zeus pilot? Titanic Moth? Cool. Awesome. Like, that's really neat. Am I being a little bit homophobic saying this card isn't good? Yes. But look at him. He's even got the gold on him. He thinks he's him, and he's not him. Pit Knight Philly. 2 effect monsters. Big hopes for this card because Pit Knight early was really cool. If this card is special summoned to a zone a link monster points to, you can target a monster you control with 1500 or less attack. It can make a second attack this battle phase. Battles an opponent's monster. Any battle damage is doubled during the standby phase of the next turn after this card is destroyed by battle or card effect and sent to the graveyard. Special summon this card. Not as good as early, but this is an effect that conceivably some decks would want. So maybe. It is going to be hard to justify playing it in a deck, though, because there is about to be a Link 2 that is going to be much better. But she's gender. The other Pit Knight is also kind of gender. Watsink Fighting Porter. Special summon up to 2 level 3 or lower light monsters from your hand. Ideally, they will both be Watt hoppers. If you summon 2 monsters of the same original type, they can attack directly this turn. If they have the original level, they cannot be destroyed by battle this turn. This card is not good. Next up. Cast a spell on the audience with Pendulum Witch v Jump. Yeah, so I think that a lot of people's biggest problem with with Pendulum Sorcerer is that he's not fuckable enough. And I think that those people are cowards, but they're also responsible for them printing a woman Pendy Sork. Let's keep going. Pensork's girlfriend. Pensork is not getting pussy. Pendulum Witch. You can only use the Pendulum effect of this card's name once per turn. If a face-up Fusion, Synchro, or Xyz monster you control is destroyed by an opponent's card effect while this card is in the Pendulum zone, you can add 1 Pendulum monster with the same original type as one of those monsters from your deck to your extra deck face up. Okay, so that's never going to trigger. Next, the monster effect. If this card is normal or Pendulum summoned, you can target a card in your Pendulum zone, destroy both it and this card, and if you do, add a level 4 or lower Pendulum monster from your deck to your hand. If this card in the monster zone is destroyed, you can place it in your Pendulum zone. Oh my fucking god. This card's insane. I feel like I probably shouldn't have to explain it to people, but this card's unbelievable. It's another fantastic piece of Pendulum slop. It resolves a lot of Pendulum's kind of outstanding issues. The number one thing that frustrates me about this card is that it is not a tuner, which would really have helped a lot. It's funny that she's a 3, but it's very good. It's very, very good for sure. Will it be the difference maker? No. It is not going to be, is Pendulum good or not, depends on Pendulum Witch, but it's going to make the deck a lot less frustrating to play, which is good. Next up. Rumple Bumple. Rumple Twofull, which appears to have a Luber's mask on it. The Boober de la Duber. He's back. He's literally not back. This is an image of his fucking empty mask. I'm going to need to ask Goldenova what this means. Declare a monster's name. Neither player can special summon monsters with that original name for the rest of the turn, except from the graveyard. You can banish this card from your graveyard and declare a monster's name. Neither player can activate the effects of monsters in the field with that original name for the rest of the turn. This is funny. I don't think this is good. Some people have been talking about how, like, oh my god, this is like a floodgate you can play in lab. And there are some scenarios where it's going to be very frustrating. Like, banishing it and calling, like, Robina is going to be kind of a problem. But I don't think it's great. What they're trying to make it is, like, a solemn warning that only works on effects that perform a special summon that aren't built in, and then gets you value afterwards. But a slightly better warning that's a normal trap is probably not going to do it. I could see it seeing some play, but I think it is unlikely. If I call Albaz with this, do I get the bad end of the lore? No. A more situational D barrier that can be used in matchups, the D barrier isn't good. That's a great way of putting it, but I would say a lot of the matchups in which D barrier isn't good, you would prefer to play a different sideboard card than this one. Next up. Goblin Goblin! Goblin! Hold up. Let me see if I can actually find the
The goblins were awakened.
There it is. Oh my god. I love that copy pasta that's like, does anyone else use Spotify and they just randomly hear sometimes the goblins were awakened? The Goblin Riders are going goblin mode in penis hymen nightmare insemination. That's the name of the set. Goblin Rider Doug the Assaulter. Whoa! Yeah, that's not coming over here. You can only use the first or second effects of this card's name each once per turn. If this card is in your hand, you can detach an Xyz material from a monster on the field, and if you do, special summon this card. And if this card is normal or special summoned, you can add a Goblin Rider spell trap from your deck to your hand, okay? Goblin Rider Clutter the Noisy. If this card is normal or special summoned, you can target a goblin monster in your graveyard, special summon it. Okay, so it's like Wolf Bark. During your opponent's main phase, if this card is in your graveyard, detach an Xyz monster from a monster on the field. Oh, can be theirs. Special summon this card, but banish it when it leaves the field. That's interesting. Goblin Rider... Wait, it turns off Noir? How does this turn off Noir? You take the level 1? That's very funny. That's insanely comedic. Goblin Rider Boon the Mock Speed. During the main phase, if this card is in your hand or graveyard, you cannot special summon Boon the Mock Speed until the end of next turn. Attach an Xyz monster from a monster on the field, and if you do, special summon this card. Goblin Rider Mionda the Cold-Blooded. If this card is normal or special summoned, you can special summon one goblin monster from your hand. If this card is in your graveyard, attach an Xyz from the monster in the field, special summon this card, but banish it when it leaves the field. This one seems really good. Goblin Rider Big Head Gabonga! 2 3s. What the fuck? We've got 3s in here? Yeah, she's a... oh, they're all 3s, actually. If this card is Xyz summoned, add a goblin... oh, not a Goblin Rider! A Goblino! We can get Goblinberg. If an Xyz material is detached from monsters on the field, target one other face-up monster on the field, attach it to this card as material. Insane. Insane. That means you can steal opponent's monsters underneath it. That's an unbelievable effect to just print on a card. During each end phase, attach a Goblino from your deck to this card as material. Awesome. Goblin's Crazy Beast. How do we get this out? Once per turn, you can target a spell trap on the field, attach 2 materials from monsters on the field. Attach that card to this card as material. Good. They're making them not die to back row. If a monster you control would be destroyed by a card effect, attach a material. Okay, it's Stingirsu. And if this card is in your graveyard, special summon it, then attach a goblin from your graveyard to it as material. Huh? Oh my god, it never dies. That's so funny. What do we have here? Grand Gathering of the Goblin Riders. Once per duel. Boo. Goblinos gain 300 attack for each Goblino. During your main phase, you can normal summon a Goblino in addition to your normal summon. That's nice. Target 2 Goblinos that have a level to either equate their levels or switch them to the total of their original. Okay, so you target 2 of the 3s and they become 6s. I get it. Grand Entrance of the Goblinos. Add a goblin from your deck to your hand, then detach an Xyz material from a monster on the field. If you do, special summon a level 4 or lower goblin monster from your hand. Oh god, it's a then you can, so you can just fire. Oh my god, wait! Diabellstar's in there! You can banish this card from your graveyard, detach an Xyz from a monster on field, add a Goblino from your graveyard to your hand. This card's insane. And Stampede. During the main phase, you can immediately after this effect resolves, Xyz summon using only Goblinos you control as material. If you control a Goblin Xyz monster, target an effect monster on the field, attach an Xyz material from a monster on the field, negate the target's effects. Okay. Let's look at the extra Goblinos. We have 2 more. This is the Snake Eyes. Here's the other Goblino. He's a 4. If this card is special summoned from the hand in attack position, target an effect monster your opponent controls, change it to defense, negate that target's effects. If a monster is special summoned to your opponent's field while this is in your graveyard, discard a card or add this card to your hand. Okay, this one isn't very interesting. Okay. So these are insane. The first thing I should note is that they are generic. There is already, like, rank 3 is the easiest rank to get to. This piece of removal is super cool. This is an awesome payoff. The downside of it right now is that they only really do the one thing. Like, you would need, I think, a second wave of cards, not even to fix the archetype, but to give them something to do. Like, as of now, I'm sure they really easily can make Gabonga, really easily can make Crazy Beast, you know, maybe set the trap card. But this isn't enough for a deck. Like, you need to be able to do other stuff. So, Lithium posted a list with Cash. Yeah, this is one of those decks where, like, maybe this is the breakout for Cash as a post-hit engine. I've been talking a lot about, like, the potential of Kashtira to be, instead of just like 3 Fenrir, like maybe decks start playing the 2 Unicorn, the 3 Fenrir, the 1 Arise Heart, and like a Theosis. And they just like are trying to make powerful cash stuff. This is like a scenario in which they could be a breakout supplemental archetype to an archetype that's internally complete. In the same way that like Gold Pride Punk could theoretically not play either of them. I'm very excited for this. I think these cards are super cool. Here's what it does. Is this going to be a Lithium video?
You're laughing. Scrounging Goblin finally has good search targets, and you're laughing.
No, I don't think so. I want to see what stupid shit Lithium has invented day one.
Yo, what's up, guys?
Kashtira, Goblino, and what do the end boards look like? That's pretty good. That's the 6, the 3, a Unicorn, the continuous spell. I imagine that's the trap and IP. But like, you understand that that's like not sufficient to beat like meta decks with any sort of consistency. All right, last stuff. Diabellstar's Pet Cat with new Snake Eye support. You can use the 1, 2, and 3 effects of this once per turn. If this card is added to your hand except by drawing it, special summon it. If this card is special summoned, you can add a Snake Eye spell trap from your deck to your hand. If this card is sent to the graveyard, target a fire monster in your graveyard, put it face up in its owner's spell trap zone as a continuous spell. Okay, so like this is the card you're supposed to get off of Diabellstar instead of Rescue Ace Fire Hydrant. And Snake Eye Dramatic Chase, place a Diabellstar monster from your hand, deck, or graveyard face up in its owner's spell trap zone as a continuous spell. During the end phase, banish this card from your graveyard, target a monster card treated as a continuous spell card you control, special summon it. Okay. That's fine. This is a rekindling target, by the way. Very cool card. I think that it's cool. You missed the new Testina cards? Yeah, I guess we'll do the new Testina cards. Fallen of the Testina. You can send this card from your hand or field to the graveyard. Place a Divine Domain Batistina from your deck face up in your field zone. If a face-up Testina spell trap you control is destroyed by an opponent's card effect while this card is in your graveyard, you can banish this card, special Light Testina, from your hand, deck, or graveyard. This card's insane. Return of the Testina. If this card is in your hand, target a Testina you control, special summon this card. Its level becomes the targeted monster's level. If this card is in your graveyard, target an Aqua Xyz you control. Attach this card to it as material. This card's insane. Tainted of this Testina. You can tribute summon this card by tributing a face-down monster your opponent controls. This card's level becomes 10 if it was normal summoned or set. If this card is sent to the graveyard, except for in the field, you can target a Testina you control. It can make a second attack during each battle phase. Testina, the divinity that defines darkness. If this card is special summoned, you can send all face-down cards your opponent controls to the graveyard. Once per turn, if this card has Crystal God Testina as material, you can detach a material. It gains 2,000 attack. If this card you control is destroyed by an opponent's card while it has material, you can special summon a Testina monster from your grave. It's over. It's over. It's so over. They gave this deck the coolest, best engine cards in the history of time, and there's fucking nothing you can do with it. There's not a single interesting thing that you can do with it. Ugh. Maybe Wave 3 will save them, I said for the millionth time. Play of the Testina. Special summon a Testina monster from your hand or graveyard in defense. Okay, Reborn? Wow. Embrace of the Testina. When your opponent activates a monster effect on the field, change it to face-down defense position. During the end phase, you can target a face-down defense position monster your opponent controls. Take control of that monster. You can only use each effect of Embrace of the Testina once per turn. Still seems like it might see play in Lab. And can only activate them while you control a Testina monster. It's dead with 3,000 or more defense. It's deader than it's ever been. Discordance of the Testina. If you control a Testina monster, banish a card from your opponent's graveyard face down. That's right. They want you to jump through hoops for DD Crow. If you control Testina monster special from the extra, banish all cards in your opponent's graveyard face down. Cool. You can banish this card from your graveyard, target a Testina in your graveyard, add it to your hand. You can only use one effect per turn and only once that turn. We couldn't have gotten more Goaty cards. You had to bait us. Look at this. Even the way that they released them. Fallen is so good. Returned is so good, provided there's any good Xyz. Tainted is like an interesting type of removal. Dog shit. Unplayable dog shit. I have a friend at Locals who has been trying to make Testina work, and he got to 2-0, I think the last time I went, and his opponent was on Pearly, and I knew his opponent pretty well. He's like a pretty good player. And he's like reading these for the first time. We were at table 1, there at table 2, and we're just like, I'm looking over because I'm like, oh my God, Testina. His opponent picks up the big guy, and he's like, he reads it, and he goes, oh my God. And his opponent goes, yeah. And he goes, sorry, I mean, oh my God, I can ash this. And the Testina player goes, what? And picks it up and reads it, and he goes, Jesus Christ. that was the end of the match. There was just nothing to do from that position. Let me show you the card I'm talking about here. When you see this one, you're gonna shit. Yeah, it's Crystal God. No, it's not Crystal God. It's Demigod, yeah. If you control a Testina card, you can special summon this card from your hand, then add a Testina spell trap from your deck to your hand. He goes, Demigod effect, and he goes, oh. Ash. Keep it in your hand, asshole. Oh, this deck is not good. This deck is comically bad. I don't know what it is. When was the last good TCG archetype? Did we do something to Japan that they're punishing us for? Wait, actually, don't answer that.